Hey everyone, my name is Alliestrasza. With Madness at the Darkmoon Faire, we saw the new keyword Corrupt. So in this video, I'm going to talk about some of the best Corrupt cards, as well as give you some decks that you can play them in. At this point, you probably already have an idea of how Corrupt works, but just in case, we'll do a quick refresher. Corrupt cards upgrade in your hand after you play another card that costs more than its mana cost. So what are some of the best Corrupt cards, and what decks can we play them in? Let's start out with Shaman. So the two Corrupt cards that the Shaman class got are actually both seeing competitive play. Pitmaster is the 3-mana 1/2 that Battle Cries summons a 3/2 duelist, and when it is corrupted, it summons 2. Evolved Shaman works really well with these types of minions, where you go wide with low statted minions for their mana cost, because the important part is the mana cost. So we can compare Pitmaster to something like Desert Hare. Your power plays come about with evolving those minions with something like Bogspine Knuckles or even the new card Revolve, which technically isn't an evolve, but again, these minions are lower statted for their mana cost, so you actually will be upgrading the stats most of the time when you cast Revolve. So here is an Evolved Shaman list pulled from hsreplay.net. I will leave all deck codes in the description below, so make sure to check there. Master Duelist also synergizes with Mogu Fleshshaper. It gets more bodies on the board to reduce Mogu's cost, allowing you to hopefully make a power play with some of your Evolve cards. Shaman's next Corrupt card is Dunk Tank, a 4-mana spell that deals 4 damage, and then when it's corrupted it deals 2 damage to all enemy minions as well. If you are playing any kind of Shaman that wants AoE to control the game, Dunk Tank is actually a really great card. So if you are interested in building something like a Control Shaman, a Highlander, even Galakrond, Dunk Tank certainly deserves a spot. The featured deck that we are going to look at though is Enhancement Shaman. This is coming from Hearthstone Top Decks, a great site for articles and deck lists. You could also just call it Aggro Shaman as well, because it is a very aggressive deck that centers around, would you know it, smacking your opponent in the face. I believe they called it enhancement because you're beefing, up your face, enhancing your face with cards like Doomhammer, Stormstrike, and Inara. So this deck revolves heavily around grabbing your Doomhammer and giving your opponent the smackdown. And that's why Dunk Tank actually works really well in this deck. It's easy to think of Dunk Tank as just a good AoE card, but the important detail here is that 4 damage can actually go face, making it a good burn spell for this aggressive deck. And as I said earlier, your priority is Doomhammer, so corrupting it is not too hard as well. Next, we'll move on to Druid. So the Corrupt cards that are seeing play in Druid are actually neutral cards. Carnival Clown and Strongman work pretty well in Druid. Carnival Clown being the most notable, as it started a new archetype called Clown Druid. And I've personally played a bit of Clown Druid and I find it quite fun. Normally, corrupting a 9-mana card would be pretty difficult and feel quite clunky, but Druid fortunately has the toolset to pull it off. Survival of the Fittest is what makes this deck so powerful, and we've already seen Survival Druid in the last meta, so we already know it's a great card, and Carnival Clown combos with it perfectly. It's the power card that can corrupt it, and it greatly benefits from being given extra stats, as it summons an entire board of 8/8 clowns or potentially 12/12s if it was corrupted and you cast both survivals twice. Not to mention that Druid also has the ramp spells in order to get to 10 mana in order to be able to do these really powerful things. Strongman works really well in this deck for the same reasons. It feels very similar to Anubis Wrath Defender, which was already part of the survival package. Casting a 10-mana spell is sometimes very slow, so being able to drop a Strongman or an Anubis Wrath Defender for protection before setting up for some really crazy stuff is really important to have in this deck. So here's a look at a Clown Druid deck list. Now this one doesn't play Yasharj, and I think it's personal preference on whether you want to play it or not. I personally was not playing with Yasharj and it felt just fine, so if you don't have the legendary and you don't want to craft it, don't sweat it. Moving on to Paladin. Day at the Fair is a pretty important card if you want to play Silverhand Paladin. It's a 3-mana spell that reads summon 3 Silverhand recruits, and if it's corrupted, summon 5. So here is a list of Silverhand Paladin. The deck still largely functions very similarly to pure Paladin with the Libram build, but Day at the Fair allows this deck to also focus on building annoying boards with Silverhand recruits. Your goal is to get Lothraxion online and then start pumping out Divine Shield 1/1s that you can buff up with cards like Balloon Merchant and Carnival Barker. In general, when looking at the stats, I would say that this Silverhand Paladin doesn't have as high of a win rate in Legend and Top 1000 Legend. It seems like people are opting for the original Libram Pure Paladin over this, but In Platinum and working your way down to lower ranks, this deck is currently around a 53% win rate, give or take, so it could be a good option for you if you are looking to play with Day at the Fair. Next, we are going to discuss Warlock. The two corrupt cards that Warlock got are Cascading Disaster and Ticketus. And my personal favorite corrupt card in general is Ticketus. Ticketus being a 6-mana 8/8 battlecry, remove the top 5 cards of your deck, and if corrupted, it removes the top 5 cards of your opponent's deck. Cascading Disaster being a 4-mana spell, destroy 1 random enemy minion, then if you corrupt it once, destroy 2, and if you corrupt it again, you can destroy 3 random enemy minions. Currently, the 2 decks that are making use of these cards are Control Warlock and Galakrond Warlock. Here's the Galakrond list as it seems to be the best performing right now. I will say that in general, these decks are not performing as well in the meta as some other ones. Using HS Replay stats, it's coming just under a 50% win rate in most ranks. It can do fairly well though against anything that is like really slow and greedy because you're typically milling 10 cards in the late game. Cascading Disaster has actually seen a lot of play in duels though. Warlock is one of the top classes due to the power of kill mocks, and most pros who have posted their 12-win runs are actually including Cascading Disaster, as it's a pretty good card. The 4-mana slot is not too hard to corrupt, it's flexible, you can use it early to answer one threat if you absolutely need to, but it also can become a huge clear in the late game if it's fully corrupted. If the slower Warlock builds become really meta, I think you're definitely going to be seeing this card a lot in any of the slower Warlock decks. Well, there you have it, folks. If you did open any of these corrupt cards in your Madness at the Darkmoon Faire packs, I hope that this video gave you some ideas of where to put those cards. So if you liked it, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe, and I appreciate you guys watching the video. Have a good one.